So here's another example that I'm adding into the templates. This one is a transfer weights example. This is a really useful tool for procedurally building weights. In this particular one, I'm only showing transfer joint to joint. I'll do another one for transfer joint to new joints, or joints to new joints. So if I go here, let me expand this. So under deform, there is deform.transfer weight class, and you give it the mesh that you want to edit the weights on. And then there's a couple functions in here, transfer. So there's transfer joints to new joints, transfer joint to joint, and transfer exact fall-off joints to new joints. So these two, well, I'm just going to talk about this one. So transfer joint to joint is just taking the joints and mixing them together, almost compositing them together, so that if you have weights, broad weights and not broad weights, you can mix them together. In this particular example, I've created a fade group, where sorry, a weight mesh group, and I have two different meshes here. So if I move this one off to the side, you'll see that I have, um, and I'm calling it an eyelid because it could be used for an eyelid setup. And if I go here, this is showing the fade. So I'm able to separate out my weights, and I'm able to, like, I've worked a long time on these weights to get them kind of fading nicely from the middle all the way to the rim. And then I have other weights here, which are just individual. So this is just like this span weighted all the way up to the end. So this one's really easy to paint. I just go in each span and weight it 1 to 1. And then this one, I weight it, takes a little bit more time, but it's easy to fine tune it because I'm just dealing with two weights. I'm dealing with this joint and this joint. And so what transfer joint to joint is going to do is it's going to transfer this weighting onto these joints and composite them together, sort of, so that the fade off that's happening from here to here will be on each individual joints. So the fade off is going to affect this joint weighting. So if I run it, process, yes. I'm getting an error, of course. Show loss log. Oh, it's because I left some scripts here when I was doing my example. So process, yes. And there we go. So if I turn on my wireframe again, let's turn off the grid. These are some controllers that I've added in just for convenience. You can see we're getting really, really nice weighting all the way to the edge. Let's try it over here. And while the cool thing about this is it's being generated procedurally, so and in this case I probably wouldn't move the edge control, or I'd do something with the edge control to limit the animator's use of that, and I would just use like this control here, and then maybe fix the weighting a little bit here to get it a bit better. But I won't get into that for this video. This is just showing that we can generate procedural weights, and we can composite together different weights using the transfer weights. And you could even do something like take these two control groups and pull this around. And you can see how it's composited those weights together. I could even go here and take this joint, and right now it is attached to a controller, or to a curve, but I can break my connection, and I can go here, and you can see that the fade weights have been added to this individual joints weighting. So again, in here, what I'm doing is I'm calling the class transfer weight. I'm taking the I individual weights so that if I open this again, the I individual weights are these weights here, so the individual span weights. So I take this mesh, has the mesh that I want to work on, and then I get all my lid joints, and then what I do is I transfer joint to joint, and I'm going to use the weight rim joint. So what's happening is it's going to take this one, and it's going to apply this weighting onto each one of these joints weights. And I'm taking the rim one because I want to negate the overall movement as it gets towards the edge. So I take this one because it fades off as it gets to the edge, which means when I move like this joint here, it's going to fade off to the edge. So I take weight rim as my joint, so this is a joint, and then I take my lid joints, all of these lid joints here, and all of the bottom ones as well. So I take all of those joints, and then I set my source mesh. So it needs a mesh to take weights from so that it can mix them together. And in this case, it's taking the eyelid fall off weights, which is this guy. So these weights here, it's taking that mesh. So if I go here again, it's taking the weights from this mesh, and it's giving it a percentage. So the percent, if I give this 0.5 and run it, it's only going to take on 50% of the weights at this point. So this is nice if you're kind of mixing in muscle weights or something like that. So that's 0.5. Let's try with 0.1. So we should see a very limited amount of weight change. And it should move the edge because that's what we're transferring. Yeah, so it's moving the edge more, right? Because it's mixing in only 0.1% of the edge's weight. So if I give it 1, you'll see that the edge does not move because the weights fade off by the edge. Yeah, so now the edge is not moving. And then if I only mix in 0.1% again, the edge is going to start to move because the weight is 100% to the is almost 100% to the original weighting, and it's just fading off a little bit as it gets to the edge. So in this case, it's actually looking like a nice little thing to modulate it, because you could have it maybe at 0.8 and then run this, and then you'll see that as I move this, it's moving that edge a little bit, so there's a little bit of give on the edge, which is kind of nice. So that's the percent. It moves it a percentage. When I first added the percent, it was like 5-6 years ago, probably more than that, and it was because we were adding joints to Comet muscle system to deform the surface of the mesh with the Comet muscles, and we were using this percent to only have the muscles affect the skin a certain amount and letting the overall leg weights to still have some influence. So we would mix in maybe 50% of the muscle, and then we still got 50% of our skin weights, and it was a nice compromise to see a little bit of the muscle jiggle, a little bit of the muscle deformation, but still maintain our nice skin weights. So yeah, percent is not used very much, but it can be useful. And then so that's about it for this video. And I'll do more on transfer weights. There's a couple more options and things to look at, but this should make it a little bit more easy to get started with if you're starting with Vetala. Thank you.